Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's me, Niall, and I'm delighted to be joined by Danny. And we're here reacting to what we've just seen from Las Vegas, Nevada. It was an absolute thriller as David Benavidez has maintained his unbeaten record, but taken the unbeaten record of another Cuban fighter, David Morrell Jr., in an absolute classic over 12 rounds at the T-Mobile Arena. Leaves him on the verge of some huge fights now. Danny, always good to speak to you. I hope you're well. Let's jump straight in. I'm curious to kind of see. I know we did speak over text a few days ago what we thought was going to happen, but just in a bit more detail of how you kind of thought this fight would play out pre-fight, and what you thought of what actually occurred, just what we just witnessed in Las Vegas.
As you say, mate, brilliant watch. I mean, if you don't enjoy that, I think boxing's maybe not the sport for you. I don't think there's anyone, regardless of what they thought was going to happen in the fight, that didn't think Dave Morrell was going to have pockets of success. But I think it was all about what would happen down the stretch because you've seen Dave Benavidez, he gets better as the fight goes on. And whilst he was a worthy winner, I had him a fairly clear winner. As I spoke to you over text, I thought Morrell maybe wilt a bit under the pressure. And whilst Benavidez took over in the second half of the fight, Morrell made him work for every second. I mean, he proved he's been this sort of boogeyman, this like hipster favorite for a while, but he's not had to prove it anything close to the level of Dave Benavidez. And I think, regardless of the result tonight, he showed he's a world level fighter and more. I think Dave Benavidez is just so seasoned down that stretch. I mean, you look at the Caleb Plant fight, the way he destroyed Demetrius Andrade. I mean, that's his bread and butter. He gets better as the fight goes on. It was so good to watch. I think I predicted David Benavidez would win the fight, but I didn't think Morrell would show the metal, the heart. I mean, we knew he would have the quality, but the way he kept in that fight, even though I thought David Benavidez won the majority of rounds fairly clearly, there was no round that felt like he was really dominating Dave Morrell. I think Morrell was always giving him something to think about, and just like as a boxing fan, so good to watch and so good to see a fight where Dave Benavidez didn't need to take that fight, really. Like, this was a fight, like, we both work in the media side of things. The numbers didn't track great for this, for how difficult a fight it was for both men. They didn't need to take it, neither of them, and fair play to both of them. I think both their stocks will have risen and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thought Dave Benavidez a worthy winner and a really good fight to watch.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I really agree. It was a shootout on the fight itself. We both kind of thought that the pace, what it came down to was that big fight experience from David Benavidez. It
Very
really
much.
was. We both kind of expected Morrell to break down the stretch. Credit to him, he didn't. Rounds 11 and 12, he was pushing David Benavidez back on the ropes. So absolute credit. As you say, his stock will have risen from that performance, no doubt about it. Yeah, another point you mentioned, like on David Benavidez. I always love watching Benavidez, for the size that he is and the pace that he sets and the hand speed, and just
Speed in it. This speed's a
the
joke.
the relentless just pressure and speed that that he shows and puts on opponents for his size is crazy. I know he had discipline issues early on in his career, obviously, but another point that you touched on, which has massively impressed me with David Benavidez, is he stepped in up levels against world class opponents and he's won comfortably. You mentioned Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andrade, Gvozdyk. I know Gvozdyk, he still won comfortably. He didn't maybe look as special as he has, but he won that fight comfortably in his light heavyweight debut, and now tonight he's won decisively as well. So, he's stepping up these levels and he's proven that he is, worth the salt. And another good point that you made is he didn't need to take this fight. A kind of a discussion that we're going to get into now with Canelo. There's the whole really fight Canelo. He's not waiting around for that Canelo fight. He's taking these big fights and forging his own legacy, which is such a breath of fresh air. It really is. It's great to see. It's very rare to see in boxing, but he's not waiting on the big payday. He's forging his own legacy, which I think is brilliant. So yeah, I love that. Credit to both men, but congratulations to Benavidez. Let's talk about now what's next. There's a couple of avenues. Couple of obvious avenues for Benavidez that I'm curious to get your opinion on of which one you think he should go down. There is the Canelo fight. Whether it'll ever happen, I don't know. I'd love it to happen. Obviously, well, it's not going to be at 168. Let's be honest. Now Benavidez is not fighting at super middleweight again. And then there's the Beterbiev Bivol winner for undisputed. Surely he's next in line for a title shot. Which avenue do you want David Benavidez to go down, and where do you think he will go down next?
Some of the options you've outlined are fucking so enticing as a boxing fan. I think even though, as you touched on, it's unlikely, bordering on almost definitely not going to happen, that Canelo fight is an absolute monster, regardless of what weight it's at. I saw an interview with Benavidez where he could be forgiven for sort of feeling resigned that fight is not going to happen. But his attitude is, I'm going to go up to 175, I'm going to become undisputed at 175, and that will be enough to lure Canelo in, which just says you about his mentality. I mean, he's desperate for that fight. Like, I think the money is obviously a part of it, but when you factor in he's turned down 5 million for that fight, I think it's the legacy side more than that. In saying that, I don't think that fight's going to happen. I would love to see him fight the winner of Beterbiev Bivol too. But what's so frustrating is even though we're in this age of like, we've got His Excellency getting on these amazing fights, these amazing cards, but the one thing is there's still that sort of Cold War with PBC, of which Benavidez is clearly still a part. And he's probably what you would say their second biggest star after Tank. I don't see that fight happening, as much as it pains me to say it. I would be honestly, if you told me later this year we would see either Benavidez Canelo or Benavidez against the winner of Beterbiev Bivol 2, I'd be so happy with either. I wouldn't even, I mean, you would prefer the Canelo fight because of the scale of it, but like as a boxing purist, winner him against the winner of Beterbiev Bivol 2, but like I worry neither of them will come to fruition because I don't think Canelo seems to want it. I think it'll have to be astronomical money, and I think the politics involved, this rift that's between Turkey and PBC, I don't think it'll happen. So I'm actually really not sure what's going to be next for him. And I really hope it's one of those two, but I'm concerned it might not be, which is a real shame because he's in his prime. You touched on the discipline issues he had early in his career. I mean, they're well put to bed. I think if you the interview done with Andre Ward on his podcast, I watched that. I mean, in terms of like anyone who wants to get a real feel for where a fighter's mentality is at, you couldn't get a better flavor. I mean, he's clearly put to bed all these issues. You got the eye of the tiger, and I want to see him against the best names in the sport. I think he hold his own, and the way he fights will be so entertaining. I just really hope we see either of those two fights I've outlined.
Yeah, again, it's hard to kind of disagree with you. I think the Canelo fight is unlikely, which is dreadfully unfortunate. But like, I don't know if you agree. I think in the kind of broad scale of boxing fans, I think if that doesn't happen, it affects Canelo's kind of reputation more than
I think
Benavidez.
so. I think so.
Yeah, I know he has an incredible legacy, but that one will be the one that should have happened that didn't. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully if it's not that, it is Beterbiev Bivol. One question just quickly before we kind of wrap up. If it is the winner Beterbiev Bivol, who do you think he matches up more favorably against there?
Water fights, aren't they? I think the chin he showed tonight, I mean, David Morrell is without a doubt the biggest puncher that David Benavidez would have faced up to tonight. And I know he got dropped in the was it 11th round. I mean, he wasn't hurt. He took loads of clean shots, and I thought Beterbiev is probably my favorite fighter in boxing. I thought he looked like he had lost the step in that first Bivol fight, and I think Benavidez is a horrible fight for him. I'm not saying I would necessarily pick him to beat Beterbiev, but I think it's a style he matches up well. I think Bivol could make him look a bit silly. I think Bivol could outbox him. I think he's not fought anyone in terms of pure boxing ability that's anywhere near Dimitri Bivol, and Bivol impressed me to no end in the first fight with Beterbiev. And I don't think for the pace that Benavidez brings, the output, the punch power, he's not as technically good as Beterbiev is. And the way Bivol in certain parts of that fight was able to outbox Beterbiev, I think he'd be able to do it in good fashion to Benavidez. But I think Benavidez versus Beterbiev is an absolute fucking bloodbath. I would love to see that. I think that's the better style of the two.
That was the word that I was actually going to use myself. I think Bloodbath it'll be incredibly violent and it'll be amazing to watch. But again, it'd be hard to disagree that Bivol would be a bad stylistic matchup for
So
Benavidez. It really would. But as you say, hopefully we get to see either the winner of that rematch or, Canelo fight. But yeah, Benavidez can definitely pick up some sort of world title at 175.
One thing before we wrap up now, how do you think Benavidez would fare against the British light heavyweights?
Oh God, that's I think Benavidez makes kind of easy work of him, to be quite
I
honest
think
with you.
so.
You know,
I think so.
outside of Beterbiev, Bivol, you've got David Morrell. It's a poor division, if we're being honest, it really is. You've got Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith, which are the next kind of two best, but Benavidez, I just think is levels above them, in my opinion. Would you agree with that yourself, yeah?
I think we've had this perception of how good the British light heavyweights are for a while, and it's always good when you get close to world level fighters domestically. But I mean, you saw what happened when Callum Smith, who a lot of people have had as one of Britain's best pound for pound fighters for the last decade, stepped in with Beterbiev. I agree completely with you. I think Benavidez is closer to the level of Bivol and Beterbiev than he is to Buatsi, Smith, Yard, Lyndon Arthur. I think he might mincemeat of them, to be honest. I think he'd destroy them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to disagree with that. But it's Buatsi Smith, I know it's a video for another day, but that is a fight I'm looking forward to as well. Yeah, that should be an interesting one too. But yeah, the future is interesting. That's all we have time for on this one. Myself and Danny reacting to what we've just seen in Las Vegas, the T-Mobile Arena, as David Benavidez has defeated the previously unbeaten now David Morrell Jr. in an absolute thriller in Las Vegas to maintain his own unbeaten record and put him on the verge of those big fights with the names we said, the likes of a Beterbiev Bivol or Canelo. That's the dream for boxing fans worldwide. So let us know what you think in the comments. What did you make of that fight? What did you make of both men's performances? And what's next? Let us know what you want to see next and how does Benavidez fare against the names you mentioned? Does he beat them? Does he lose to them? Let us know what you think. As always, don't forget, if you enjoy our content, we'd really appreciate it if you could like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing, follow us on all social media. Great content on a regular basis. And yeah, Danny, it was a pleasure and speak again soon.
It was a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.